Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Early voting has been underway for 5 days now, and New York State has so far seen a record turnout during this election season. According to the State Board of Elections, more than 1 million people have voted statewide since Saturday, and that includes nearly 500,000 people here in the city, a number that is sure to grow when the figures from today are added in. I should mention that you've got another 20 minutes. If you want to go early vote tonight, you can get out to your polling site, and you can do it by 8 o'clock. As we've been reporting here in the city, voters have experienced hours-long lines over the last few days, and that has renewed calls to reform the city's Board of Elections. Joining me now for more on this is Brooklyn State Senator Zellnor Myrie, who chairs the State Senate's Committee on Elections. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, Errol.
Now, you are more or less the godfather of early voting, meaning you drafted and oversaw the passage of the law that brought early voting to New York for the first time. And what's your sense of how this is all going?
You know, I would first note, Errol, there were a lot of people that worked on early voting prior to me getting there, so I was happy to get it over the line. I'm excited about what I've seen. I spent about 3 hours waiting on the line at Brooklyn Museum myself, spoke to a lot of voters, heard from them, and people were generally in good spirits. There are, of course, concerns about the long wait. There are concerns about the BOE writ large. These are things that are not new and were pre-pandemic and pre this election. But I think generally folks are excited about having their say in democracy, and it's been exciting to see them utilize early voting to do so.
I will criticize the Board of Elections where it seems necessary, but it seems to me that if 300 people, 500 people are lined up, when you open the site at 7 a.m., there is by definition a line that they really had nothing to do with, right?
It's a difficult thing, Errol. We are not only seeing increased turnout in a presidential year, but we have to observe social distancing within these polling sites. And so that, of course, will slow down the process. As I mentioned, I spent a lot of time online, but once I was inside, I didn't spend longer than 10 minutes getting in and out. And so I appreciate the work that the poll workers have done. Could there have been more planning? Could there be more early voting sites? Absolutely. But I want to encourage folks who have not utilized early voting just yet, please get out and do so. If you think the lines are long now, they will be longer on Election Day, so take advantage.
This is true. What's your sense of where the bottlenecks are? I mean, it sort of matters, right? You said social distancing is one reason why a line might get longer or it might take longer to process folks. There are a lot of other reasons as well, right?
I think the assignment of early voting sites, the election districts that go to a particular site matter. So in my district, I have constituents that go to the Brooklyn Museum like I do for early voting, but some who go to the Barclays Center, and the wait times for both of those places are drastically different. And so I think there could have been more foresight in who was assigned to which institution. We could adopt a process that counties outside of New York do. They use vote centers. So instead of having one early voting site, I can vote anywhere within my county. I think that's something we should be looking at going forward in order to, I think, divvy up some of the demand that we see at high voter turnout institutions.
Well, inevitably, if you're not going to open up all, whatever it is, 1,200 sites, then when people do go to early vote, there's a process by which you have to generate a specific ballot for that individual. That, too, is sort of a bottleneck, or at least adds to the processing time, right?
That's right. But it also is an opportunity for us to have countywide early voting. And here's why. It is an on-demand ballot. You go in, we have electronic poll books. That is another reform that we passed in 2019. It allows you to check it. It's not the big old poll books that we were used to. And then your ballot is printed right there on the spot. There's no reason why we can't have that at sites across Brooklyn or across Queens or the Bronx. And so, again, I think it's something for us to look into to make the process more smooth.
The mayor, among others, has been calling for structural reforms, and in particular doing away with or changing the constitutional provision that structures the Board of Elections so that it's not party leaders from the Republican and Democratic parties that determines the leadership of the Board of Elections. Do you think that would help things?
I think everything should be looked at after this election. This is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. I think we should be doing everything in our power to encourage people to engage with the system. And once we get past this election, I am more than happy for us to have a conversation about reforming the structure. I think what people want at the end of the day for their democracy is competency. They want it to work smoothly. And if that includes rejiggering the partisan nature of it, then we should do that. But we should also look at other investments and how we give resources and how we professionalize the board. I'm willing to look at all of that, but I think we need to get through this election first.
And how is the board funded? Is there a specific allocation or appropriation that's part of the state budget, or is it a big statewide pot of money that gets parceled out to the different boards?
So the boards get money from the state budget, the State Board of Elections does, and then it gives money to the local boards of elections. And so this is going to require, I think, partnership between the state and the city in determining what is the appropriate amount of resources necessary. You think about the percentage of people that participated in early voting in 2019. Here in New York City, 1.3% of our voters. In the first 4 days of early voting, now that number is almost 10%. That obviously is going to require more and commensurate funding. And so in a time where we're dealing with a massive budget deficit, my hope is that everyone who is commenting and suggesting solutions will keep that same energy, as the kids say, when it's time for us to invest the resources.
Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will take you up on that offer to continue this conversation on the other side of the election. Senator Myrie, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Errol.
All right, I'm going to talk more about early voting and the elections when I'm joined by my politics panel right after this short break. Stay with us.